Hey there, friends. Welcome back to As a Man Thinketh on Yanasa TV. So, I wanted to play a quick video clip for you guys real fast and then have a little bit of a discussion about this particular clip.
And we're going to have to whack the pensioners and we're going to have to whack the farmers and punish all these groups of people. And everyone was like, wow, you've waited 14 years in opposition. And this is what
What did the farmers do wrong? I never understood that.
They make our food. I mean, it's ridiculous. Most of them live literally
Because British food's not good? Was that the
most of them lose money, farmers. And the idea, he created the impression that a lot of pensioners can afford it, a lot of farmers can afford it. Actually, most of them can't. Most of them can't.
But why would you target I mean, it's just
inexplicable.
But it's happened throughout Europe and the United States, attacking farmers. And it seems like part of a
should
bigger...
reward farmers. Farmers are the lifeblood of any
But I guess what I'm saying is, right, but if you're looking big picture, if you're opposed to famine and you're for human flourishing and people, then you'd want to do whatever you could to have enough food.
I agree.
Country by country by country, Germany, Great Britain, Denmark, Holland, they're all attacking farmers. United States, maybe there's a bigger anti-human agenda at work. Do you see that?
I just think it's a pretty dumb political agenda that's been pursued so far.
It's not just dumb, it's like weird.
Yeah.
Of all the groups you'd attack, why farmers?
Makes no sense.
And it does make sense, though, doesn't it?
Why?
Well, clearly there's an effort to reduce the human population. If all these countries...
Do you think he wants to starve the Brits and kill us?
Well, I don't know. I don't. You can't assess the motives of individuals. They're unknowable.
He's not trying to starve the British people.
Okay. I don't know him. I don't know what he's trying to do.
No, I'm talking.
No. You come on. Look around the world. Government after government after government around the world is endorsing policies that they know will reduce birth rates, is attacking agriculture, and is allowing, I don't know, drugs and food that kill people and make them less healthy. So if you add that all up, you don't have to know their motives. You just look at the effects and you're like, the effect is to kill people. What is going on here? Do you ever wonder that?
Crap governance by a series.
It's consistent around. It's like every country's like, we should help people kill themselves. How would you ever come up with that?
At a time when we need more people, not less.
Yeah, what do you think that is?
Bad governing. I mean,
but why is it the same in every country?
Well, I just think the food thing in particular, look how fat everyone's getting. Right? I mean, fat, lazy, sedentary. And you're like, that can't be good for anyone.
No, but why is it happening?
Bad politicians.
But why is every politician in every Western country coming to the same set of policies whose effect is fewer children, more unhealthy dead people? Like, what? I mean, you don't have to be a conspiracy nut to just say, I'm looking at just the numbers.
Yeah, that is...
How many kids per family? Dropping.
That is the consequence of all the political actions that have been taken. I agree. I don't think it's a mad global conspiracy in the way you might be inferring.
Well, I don't know.
But I don't listen. I know where you're coming from on this. I don't believe they're actually smart enough to do that from the politicians.
Then why are they all doing it? All of them.
I think because they're not very competent and they're not very good and they're lazy.
And
they're going along.
The law of averages would suggest that, like, I don't know, the governments of Spain, Belgium, New Zealand, pick another, Mexico would adopt the opposite policies. Like, we're going to pay you to have more kids. Not one of them.
Here's what I agree with you about. It's wrong. And it's got to change. We need more people, not less. We need better food, not crap food. We need to reduce the size of our human beings whilst increasing populations. Otherwise, the planet's going to kill itself, going to basically self-implode and die out, as Elon Musk keeps warning. He's right.
I agree with that. I'm going to end on this.
Have we ended on an agreement? What?
The question here is the war that's been waged on farmers intentional or just complete negligence, incompetence? I think the fact that you have two very different people, Piers Morgan, Tucker Carlson, both agreeing that policies around the world have been directly impacting farmers. I mean, it's without question that there's something going on. But what I want to know from you guys is, do you think that this is actually intentional, or do you think that this is just, complete idiots making laws out there that don't know what they're doing, and they're just somehow simultaneously having an impact on farmers around the world? That's the question. I want to know in the comments down below what you guys think before I tell you what I think. But just, listening to that conversation, I think one of the things that is important to keep in mind is that Pierce Morgan is from a country where freedom of speech is not a thing. They have actually jailed people for utilizing the freedom of expression of their opinions and thoughts. And so I think, when you listen to that conversation, if you were to give him the freedom to say exactly what he thinks, what would it have come out a little different? So I went down a rabbit hole the other day, just trying to, understand this farmer, quote unquote, farmer's perspective on some things. One of those things that he and I would highly disagree on is shutting down USAID. This farmer, quote unquote farmer. There's no evidence that he's actually a farmer. I haven't seen any videos of him out on a farm. He's usually sitting in the passenger side of a vehicle. And a lot of what he's been putting out there, I feel like, is pure propaganda, like not even stuff that I could take seriously. But he had put out a video saying U.S. farmers need to stick up for USAID and keep the agency from getting shut down. Because if the agency gets shut down, it's going to impact us. The Food for Peace program buys a lot of our crops. This guy was also pushing, the acceptance of welfare and other things. There was a lot of misleading information in it. And I'm bringing this up because I think, as I give you my explanation as to what I think, a kind of USAID is just one example of why I think the way that I think. But in any case, he basically was saying, if this agency gets shut down, it's going to impact farmers because they buy all of our food and ship it overseas to other countries. The Food for Peace program, this is where a lot of misinformation gets out there on the web. A lot of misleading information. I don't want to use the word misinformation because so many people use that in the wrong context these days. But this is misleading information because the Food for Peace program, there's actually a bill running through Congress right now to move that under the USDA. If it's under the USDA, it makes a lot more sense because the USDA has the crop numbers. They know what could manipulate the market, what could not manipulate the market. They know better how to implement that program in a way that fits the strategic direction of agriculture in the United States. An agency like USAID doesn't know that. It's not a place where that program should even be placed in the first place. So that's misleading information because it's making people believe, okay, if we shut down this agency, we're going to hurt our farmers. And in fact, subsidies, the whole subsidy program, this guy was also saying that Trump wants to shut down subsidies because of Project 25. I'll do a whole other video on Project 25 because that is an interesting topic, what Trump may or may not follow with Project 25. But when I get into that video and I get into that topic, what you'll find is that Project 25 nor Trump actually want to do away with subsidies. The problem with subsidies is that 94% of subsidies go to 4 crops. The subsidy money actually goes to large corporations that are producing those crops. A lot of those subsidies don't make their way down to the small farmer. You don't hear many small farmers. You don't hear the 94% of the farmers, 99% of the farmers out there talking about the need for welfare and other food programs because it doesn't really impact them that much. At the same time, we do have to subsidize our crops a tiny bit. And that's another whole other video as to why and what we'd have to do to kind of off-roll that. But what they want to do with the subsidy program is make changes to it to make the market less dependable on the subsidies, to make the farmers less dependable on the subsidies, and to make sure that agricultural policy in the United States is informed around these subsidies. It's more of a reform than it is a cancellation. But the reason why I was bringing up USAID, getting back to that, because like I said, the other stuff is a whole other video. There's a lot of information to go over and help you guys understand, how the system kind of works. Okay. But going back to USAID, I find it hard to believe that policymakers around the world are just that stupid that they would make these policies that are impacting farmers around the world. I find it really hard to believe that. The reason why I find it hard to believe that is because of agencies like USAID. If you think about what they do, they manipulate markets. They manipulate markets by sending food overseas. They manipulate markets or they manipulate countries and democracies all around the world with like what they call soft influence programs. Really, they're geniuses at creating riots and other disruptive things. I mean, they have done some good things, but they're geniuses when it comes to disrupting democracies or dictatorships, whatever it is they want to disrupt, and causing chaos for reform. I mean, this is a typical Marxist type movement that you've seen for years, and USAID has mastered it. And they're extremely intelligent about it. How many of you have ever heard of a program called, or a platform called Zunzuneo? Zunzuneo was I think I'm saying that correctly.
Zunzuneo, which is it was a Twitter knockoff.
But basically, it was like a Twitter platform in Cuba. Cuba outlawed a lot of our social media platforms because they said it was basically a government influence campaign from the United States government, kind of like what we've been doing with TikTok in China. Same thing, right? So we have this influencing campaign. They say, no, you can't do that. We're outlawing your platforms in our country. So they created their own kind of Twitter platform. USAID did this in Cuba using Cuban entrepreneurs. And they made it look like a Cuban company. The company was like CAI instead of CIA, Creative something or other. I can't remember the full name of it.
A group called Creative Associates International, CAI. It's not CIA, it's CAI. And they're very creative.
But point is they created this. And then they used the algorithms, they used profile information to study the population of Cuba, figure out where the areas were that they could manipulate, and then use the algorithm to trigger chaos, to trigger a revolution in Cuba. That takes a lot of intellect, a lot of intelligence, right? To be able to go into another country, to be able to create this entire platform with the sole purpose of getting people's information, understanding those people, and then creating chaos for a revolution. This was all back in 2014. This isn't new stuff. I mean, imagine what they could do now. Technology and algorithms and all that has come much further since 2014. The problem with USAID is we started seeing a lot of these tactics being done here at home in the United States on U.S. citizens, especially when you look at BLM protests, the money flow into certain large nonprofit organizations and how, basically they were able to trigger riots on the street. I mean, it is that simple. They can manipulate people that quickly. The other thing that they have, and you won't hear a lot of developed world countries that have USAID within them complaining about USAID getting shut down, because what they'll actually do is they'll go in and they'll basically start paying for programs to kick back to politicians, to control the politicians. Suddenly they have those politicians in their back pocket, and then they can influence policy. This is an organization that is brilliant when it comes to doing this stuff, and this is why they've been shutting it down. But this isn't the only organization in the world that has these tactics, that knows how to do these things. I mean, this happens around the world on a regular basis. Other countries do this to the United States on a regular basis, like I said, TikTok. So you're going to sit there and tell me that these groups that have these capabilities, that have proven that they can do this, that do it on a regular basis, don't have the intellect. And the politicians are just dumb. That's why they're passing these things. And remember, Pierce Morgan is from a country where freedom of speech is not a real thing. You can't really take his viewpoint on this to heart, I don't think. Point is that there are policymakers, and it feels like there is a coordinated effort to wage a war on farms. Why would they do that? What is the purpose of that? And I'm not saying USAID did that. I'm just using USAID as an example of the intricate complexities and abilities of a lot of the agencies around the world, what they actually understand about us as people, what they understand about policy, the impacts of the policies. These people are not idiots. And so when you hear about these things happening and you think, oh, it's just coincidence or it's just incompetence, it's not. They're shutting down farmers in the UK by putting these taxes in place, knowing exactly what the end result would be. They didn't even want to discuss it in Parliament. They didn't want to have that discussion. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew what they were doing in Denmark. They've known what they're doing here in the US with certain policies. I've covered certain states that have implemented policies or decided to suddenly enforce those policies out of the blue, simultaneously, multiple policies, state of Oregon is what I'm thinking of, that directly impacted the ability of farmers to stay in business. And they say, well, we didn't shut them down. No, you didn't shut them down. You just made them financially impossible to exist. On a side note, with the whole USAID thing, imagine this rogue agency having the purchasing power of U.S. agricultural goods that it has. Imagine how it can manipulate the market. We've had a beef shortage for several years. How a lot of these man-made fires or arson fires happened, I don't know. But the point is that we've had fires that have taken out cattle. We've had droughts that have caused a lot of issues with raising forage for cattle. Imagine an agency buying up too much corn or too much grain. What that would do to further cause issues within the cattle industry, which would cause further culling of cows. Suddenly you'd have the worst shortage you've had in years because grain prices, feed prices are going up at a time when droughts are hitting and, forage is tight. At the same time, you have fires that are wiping across an entire state, wiping out the largest, the panhandle of Texas, one of the largest cattle areas of our country. Just imagine if that happened. Well, it did happen. I'm not saying that they did this, but imagine the manipulation that an agency could have on the grain that feeds cows and how, knowing what would happen if grain prices go up, farmers are already in a tight spot because of drought. They'd have to cull more. And can you see the market manipulation there? And this has actually happened. We actually have the lowest herd size that we've had, well, really compared to population ever. And that's why your beef prices in the store are so high. And I'm going to do another video on beef prices and egg prices, and then right there's another one. We talk about the Wuhan lab. We now know that this particular agency was funding the Wuhan lab. Did you guys know that the bird flu that's going around right now, they were actually doing studies on gain of function for the avian flu? And did you know that the avian flu that's going around right now has been highly unusual, unstoppable in many ways? And there's a more dangerous strain. We'll get to that in another video. So guys, I guess the point that I'm trying to make, the question, when I watched this clip the other day, it had me laughing. Okay, but I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that I cannot be made to believe that this is just complete incompetence. I don't think it's simply a coincidence. We've seen all these issues around the world impacting farmers, shutting farmers out of business. I don't think it's a coincidence that some of our more aggressive states in the United States have used even more aggressive tactics to shut down agricultural producers. And no, they themselves did not shut them down. They just created policies that made it impossible for them to operate a business. I don't believe that these incredibly intricate tactics, creative tactics that these government agencies are capable of doing are completely just unaware of the outcome of what will happen. And I think Britain is a prime example. I think they knew exactly what was going to happen to their farmers with those taxes. It's sad, but it's true. They knew exactly what they were going to do. Like they had conversations about it. Guys, they know what the outcome of this stuff is. This is intentional, in my opinion. There's very little out there that's going to convince me otherwise. I think we are just waking up to it. I think that we are just all of a sudden going, this big push towards bugs, it's a real thing. The government really does spy on me. They really do try and manipulate me. That's a real thing. Like I said, that's just my opinion. This is, as a man thinking, this is just opinion. I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are on that conversation, what your thoughts are of what we've seen going on around the world, seen on, whether or not you feel just based on, things that have been going on, if you think that there's been a war on farmers, an attack on farmers globally. I don't see how you couldn't, but, this is a place to share your opinions. So share them down below. Let me know what you think.
Ancient eras and natural selection have refined and tailored pristine fibers with the resilience for today's days. Evolving beyond the last ice age, bison wool is nature's most dependable activewear. Buffalo Wool Company, 100% proven by nature, 100% American-made.
Check out the Buffalo Wool Company collection at yanasatradingco.com.